Hey, we are live again. Hey, two of us, third might come, or he might not. We don't know. Doesn't matter. It's all good, right? You know the drill. Ask your questions. We answer your questions one way or another. And that's all there is to it, right? So ask your questions, and we'll put them on a screen and give our best to answer it. We have a new member. Great.
Yeah.
Where's my thumb? There's my thumb. There we go. Thank you so much. Thank you. And let's start with the first one. Let's start from the end. What is the future of DevOps in the world of AI? Okay, let me give a shot, and then Scott can jump in. Some things will not change in terms that you as DevOps, whatever that means, you're creating tools in some form or another that others use. Right? That's the job, give or take. Excluding now the part that you actually should monitor your system, ensure that it's running and all this stuff, right? But from the user perspective, you're creating tools. You will keep doing that. Two things will change, at least. One is that you need to start thinking, how can those tools be, what is the effective way for those tools to be consumed by AI as well? Right? How do we do that? Is it better to be like that? Or like, hey, if by tool you created something, unfortunately, only as a web UI that somebody needs to click a button and you forgot to create an API for that, well, you did it wrong. AI can consume a web UI, but it's a silly way to do it. I would argue it's a silly way to do it for humans as well, unless it's observability. But hey, so you will keep doing what you're doing. Just think about having a new type of consumer of your stuff. And you will be creating agentic tools themselves, whether that's MCP, whether that's agents, whether that's skills, whatever that is, right? You will be creating agentic tools that people will hook into their client agent of choice, like Claude Code cursor, and so that through those tools, they can connect to your tools, and your tools will do a better job than what generic agents already do. If it's not doing a better job, you wasted your time.
Yeah. I'd say the only thing I would say in a very short sentence is DevOps in the world of AI is a more efficient, higher trajectory DevOps. I don't think anything really changes. In the end, in the AI space, we need to run services. We need to still do everything. MCPs are like any microservice, any whatever that we need to run somewhere. We still need runtimes. We will still need Kubernetes. We will still need, until something replaces Kubernetes, right? We're still going to need pipelines and CI/CD. Now, those things will evolve just like they evolved from things like Groovy and whatever in Jenkins into GitHub Actions or the harnesses or the GitLab CIs or the Tectons or the Argo workflows of the world, right? Things evolve in these spaces, but the areas don't. We don't get rid of them. We still need code reviews. Now, we may have AI doing code reviews for us, but we still need code reviews. We still need all of these things are still going to exist, I believe. It's just a question of, again, they will be evolved to become more efficient, to do better jobs at it, and things of that sort. Yeah, that's basically the future. It's just a more efficient, higher trajectory.
The only note I would add is that I feel, and what I'm going to say is true without AI, but with AI is becoming even more true. Think hard about APIs, whatever you're doing.
Yep.
Kind of like, don't let it fiddle with random stuff. Basically, you need to tell the agent, here's an API, do something, whatever that something is. Whether it is talking to API with CURL or curl, or it is talking it through some CLI or separate discussion of lesser importance.
Exactly.
Okay. Would it be silly to use OTLP as a transparent layer for business-related telemetry, let's say TSO stuff, etc.? TSO means transmission system operator. Or do you like to keep OTLP for just app and infra? Scott, I'm embarrassed. I don't know what is TSO.
OpenTelemetry protocol.
Transmission system operator. No. I know OTLP, TSO.
I have no clue what TSO is. However, what I would say is that I believe that OpenTelemetry can be used for business-related telemetry as well. It's a way of shipping telemetry.
Yeah.
Any type of telemetry can be shipped with OTel. I believe in using a standard as much as we can.
And people often confuse that what is a good format to transmit something and to store something is not necessarily the same thing as what is the format you present that something to somebody, right?
Exactly.
OTLP works fine. It's a standard. Unless we come up with a better standard that becomes a standard, it's a thing. And if it's business people, yeah, make it full of colors. I don't know, whatever business people like. That's fine.
Exactly.
Okay. We need to upgrade from Crossplane 1.0 to 2.0. Could you please share your experience? We are also thinking to go Upbound Community Edition after the bump. Well, so upgrade itself without changing how it works is, I might be missing one or two things, but it is basically transparent. You just upgrade and it works. Mostly. The thing is that the biggest, at least from my perspective, the two biggest things that 2.0 brought us that you need to put a bit of work, that's namespaced resources. I think that in vast majority of cases, it should be namespaced. And to do that, there is .m in the API, like something, and now it's something.m something, right?
Exactly.
APIs. So you change the API, and apart from adding namespace to your resources and compositions and changing API, the rest should be the same, essentially, right? You just now have a mandatory namespace and it could be in multiple places, just to be clear. And that's about it. I'm not sure that you can do, I don't know if you, Scott, you tried. I'm not sure. I don't think you can switch to namespaces on already running resources.
You can't because, again, you have to switch the resource, but there are ways of doing it. I've done it. It's a manual process, but depending on how you write things in the compositions, it's not that difficult to do. Again, so really my general approach is that the way that I try to view the V1 to V2 migration is, first of all, upgrade to V2, because unless you're using old deprecated things like the inline patch and transform instead of pipeline, or some other esoteric things, you're perfectly fine just upgrading to V2. At that point, create namespaced variants of the exact same XRDs that you already have. All new ones only create as namespace. And then if it is something that is easily recreatable, so something that isn't, let's say, data, right? A web server or whatever. So just delete, create the new one, delete the old one, whatever, of, you know, the XR itself of the what was a claim and is now a composite, whatever. Create that in namespace scoped, and great. Things that do need the migration, you can do it manually. It's really not a lot of work.
Okay, now important thing, and this is easy to miss. Create, what's the name? Runtime deployment config, was it? I think.
Deployment runtime config.
Okay, all the words I said are correct, just not in the right order. Cool. Because what will happen is that, oh, Amin is here. Hey, Amin, we'll introduce you after this question. What will happen is that new providers that switch to V2, they now have double number of CRDs, right? Everything, if you had 100 CRDs before, now you have 200 or 198 if something is still cluster scoped, and you don't want that. So deployment runtime config allows you to filter and say only those CRDs.
The MRAPs. What you're talking about there is managed resource activation policies. Deployment runtime config is changing. Yeah. Managed resource activation policies, because we couldn't come up with a shorter name for a CRD.
Yeah, why have a name that anybody will remember? It's just silly.
Exactly. Use MRAPs. Yes.
Yeah. And finally, now you can compose resources directly. You don't need object resource or Helm release resource. And I'm not sure how valuable that is really. It's valuable if you run always Crossplane in the destination cluster. If you run Crossplane as a separate cluster, then you just stick with object and release, because that's how you can tell Crossplane where to do something. Anyways, we have Amin here, not a backup, helping us out with questions. Do the quick introduction, Amin, and then we continue. And folks, from interaction, you will know what to ask, because he's working on an awesome project.
Hey, folks. Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it. I just learned like literally 3 minutes ago that I'm supposed to be on the stream. So, hey everyone. My name is Amin. I'm a software engineer at AWS. I work on the ACK project and KRO and CROW. So mainly anything Kubernetes, open source, and yeah. Thank you for having me.
Okay. I mean, I didn't explain. I don't know if Scott explained you. We just get questions, we answer. Whomever starts speaking first, that's the one who is answering. That's how it works. No structure.
Okay, sweet.
Okay. This is from before TSO is the main line of electricity in a country for distribution.
Okay.
I have no idea.
That's around the TSO question with OTLP.
Yeah.
Again, any type of telemetry, use OTEL. So
there you go. I had a fight with people on that for agents. That I don't know how much you guys are following, but companies are spinning up new telemetries for agents, and I was kind of like, come on, it's the same thing. It's the same thing, and those agents talk to the rest of my system. And how do I collect telemetry from the rest of the system? OTEL, please. But hey. Okay, next one. How is platform engineering implemented in modern organization? What practices make it successful? Okay, actually, all three of us probably have a same opinion, and that's stop me, guys. Kind of like we already know the model, and the model is create a service that does something, expose that service through an API, right? The project I'm working on, Crossplane, does that. Not for everything you need. What Amin is working on as well does that. That's how you. The best practice is to expose your stuff through APIs. As easy as that. If you look at, Amin comes from AWS. That's the whole architecture of AWS, isn't it? Kind of, we have services, we expose APIs.
And multiple interfaces that implement those APIs.
Yeah, interfaces can be anything, or it can be nothing. You can say, I'll give you web UI, CLI. You can say, I'll give you nothing. Here is an API. Go for it.
Yep. The whole purpose of this area of engineering to me is like, it's about API design. Like the better APIs you expose to your consumers, the better experience they have. The more you expose, the more power you give them. The less you expose, the less power you give them. So it's how much and how good your APIs are.
Now there is also a balance, I believe, between the more you expose, the more power you give them, but also the more you confuse them, right? Kind of. I have a logic. You should expose everything people need and not more than that.
Yeah.
Fully agree.
Exactly. We don't want to turn into Bitnami Helm charts.
No, and
understand exactly what we mean by that.
It depends really who you are. Kind of like Bitnami, I can understand. I'm not saying that it's fully explainable, but I understand they serve potentially anybody in the world. Like same thing like AWS or other providers, right? Kind of like my interface needs to serve such a wide variety of potential users. But where we are talking about platform engineering, like internal, I'm assuming we're talking about internal developer platforms. Your users, your scope is very limited. It's very small, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. Is KCL still in state of low maintenance or is getting more attention? Dead. No, not dead. Life support. Nothing dies in our industry. Mainframe is not dead.
Very slow life support. It's not that different from like Carvel, JSONet.
Yeah, exactly.
Any of those things that are, all of them were attempts. I think two of them, KCL and Carvel, I think were actually good attempts. I never understood JSONet or KSONet or any of those. They make zero sense to me. I think the only people that liked them were Grafana Labs. But in the end, the issue is that I think we can all agree that Go templating is a horrifying thing. And that it's not actually templating because it's just text templating. It's abysmal, right? And that's what Helm uses. However, Helm is still the de facto standard. Whether we like it or not, Helm is the de facto standard for a package manager into Kubernetes, and all of these other tools tried to build something that didn't bring enough. Why is Crossplane and why are KROW and why are all these tools finally actually gaining the traction that things like Carvel or KCL never did? Because they actually have a paradigm shift. We're moving things server side. We're not doing client side packaging. We're doing server side rendering, right? It's a major difference that allowed people to say, okay, I'm going to do something that may have a smaller ecosystem, but it gives me this entrance into a whole other world. All of the other templating languages may be amazing, and they are a million times better than Go templating, but they lost because Helm is just so dominant, unfortunately.
Yeah. Now, my biggest beef with the Helm templating is actually not that much syntax, which is absolutely bloody horrible, is that what we are doing with those types of languages, let's say templates, is that we are transforming data from one format to another. It's a data pipeline, essentially. And Helm templating is completely unaware of that it works with data. It's kind of, if it's Markdown, it works for me as well. Kind of like, I can do anything you want. That's really the problem with it, right? If you look at KCL, if you look at YTT, if you look at JSONnet, they're all data aware. And that's the important part of those languages. Okay. Now we go into philosophical questions. Whomever wants to philosophize now, go for it. What makes a programmer? Like, what is the rite of passage for us?
Considering that Amin's the best programmer on the stream.
What makes you you, Amin? Okay, there we go. What defines you?
That's a hard one, especially like with all the, agentic tools that we started using lately. I'm confused about my own identity. Like, I don't know if I'm still a programmer or not, or who is the programmer and what's my role. But like,
go for it.
yeah, go ahead.
If I go very generic, I would say that programming is writing instructions that machines understand, right? In a very broad sense of words, which could be Java, which could be Go, which could be YAML. YAML is a programming in a way, right? Not a complex one,
Yeah.
but it is writing instructions. And now, kind of like if LLMs understand pure text as instruction, then that's kind of programming as well.
I'm against the term of programming in today's world. I think we're software engineers, and that's an important distinction that needs to be made. The world of programming was relevant in the world where AI was not writing the code for us. But in today's world where AI is doing so much of this work for us, we are moving into more the engineering mindset. We need to be we should have already been, but anyone to succeed in this area has to be more at the engineer mindset of really thinking about what should be. The programming is just the detail. It's the technical work that happens. That's the most mundane part of what a software engineer does. Software engineer has to build the design, has to think about the API design, has to think how things are going to flow. What's the architecture going to be? How do these things string together? All of that. And that we still have to do in the world of AI. Because if we don't give a good prompt telling it exactly what we want, we're going to get absolute crap out the other end. Which is why it is very important, I think, to reframe from programming into the world of software engineering, which is really what we're doing today. And you may be a software engineer that writes code. You may be a software engineer that instructs AI to write code.
I would go as far as to say that if before AI you were the person who spends close to 8 hours a day typing code and that's your job, you were doing it wrong. Before AI. Right?
Oh, yeah.
The job is really figuring out how should we do it, what should we do, everything that you just said. I think that was always the job, the important part of the job. And it's just that now it is even more important.
Right? We all work in the Kubernetes space. How long does it take to get a KEP approved? A Kubernetes enhancement proposal. How long does it take to actually write the code for a KEP?
Let's not get there.
Right? But no, let's think about it. We spend months and months, if not years sometimes, on KEPs to get the design approved. The actual work sometimes is days, right? For a huge KEPs, it can be days because, again, the writing of the code is not the difficult part. The difficult part is agreeing on a design, is understanding how the whole system works and building out that whole preparation plan.
Now, here's one thing that I feel will change drastically, and that's that we will be focusing in the future, if not now, less on spending tremendous amount of time on design, but rather spending time on creating MVPs, kind of runnable designs, right? Because, like if you take Kubernetes as example, you're going to spend tremendous amount of time writing code as well, right? whether that's hours or days or weeks or months. It's a large effort, right? And now I can actually, when I give you design, I can give you design that is based on working code relatively cheaply. And we still discuss it a long time, right? But it doesn't have to be only text anymore.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. How are you managing memory of agents? Cross-project, your own memory, company-wide memory. What do you use? I'm not even sure what that person means by memory. Kind of context memory or like memory of past interactions, like
What was
semantics?
that task manager thing you were using back in the day, Viktor?
Taskmaster?
Gas sound?
Yeah. Taskmaster.
Yeah, it's similar to Gastown, yeah.
Yeah,
So
I use none of them.
same.
I use this
neither.
memory.
no, but kind of do you write it down kind of like, hey, task 1, 2, 3, whatever to the agent and then do one?
I create PRDs and all of that, but I don't use
Yeah.
like a shared memory or anything like that. Or anything.
Yeah, but PRDs are in a way memory. That's why I'm not sure what TLIN means by memory, right? You can have also, I can go to the other extreme and say you should probably have some kind of company knowledge base accessible to agents, right? With some best practices, rules, policies, what's or not. That could be a memory. That's probably either a graph database or a vector database, right?
Yep.
So, TLIN clarify. Okay. What kind of tasks in the DevOps would be automated with AI agents and what parts won't be in your opinion? Of course, no one knows, but what you assume what platform engineers DevOps needs to focus. I don't think that AI changes my opinion on that one. I think that repeatable tasks with or without AI should be automated by creating application scripts, whatever it is, right? Workflows, whatever. If it's repeatable, it's code. And if it's not repeatable, meaning that every time I do something, I need to think about it, then that's human or AI or human with AI. It's taking over people's jobs, not script jobs. Let's put it that way.
The way I view it is that if it's repeatable and it is prescriptive, it's a script. If it's repeatable but it's more generic, it's AI with maybe a skill, with an MCP, with whatever. If it's a one-off, then it's a one-off, and that may be AI that I use as a one-off or whatever, but it's not something that I'm building an agent or an MCP or anything for, because it's a one-off thing that I'm not going to waste my time writing code, right? It's that famous meme of the guy that says, I spent 6 hours writing this code that saves me 20 minutes.
I mean,
it's like,
Yeah.
good for you.
To me, it's like if it's architecture and design, it's not going to be replaced. Everything else is very likely going to get replaced. I mean, the same way we were talking about programming and software engineering, there's a lot of designer architecture behind the scenes. I believe the same applies to DevOps. Everything that involves programming and scripting is going to be definitely like automated with time, if it's not already happening.
it should have been, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Kind of like, if you still run your builds and publish artifacts and run tests with anything but one of the workflows, you're in the wrong century. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Okay, now the popular one. Given Ingress Nginx retirement, is Nginx Plus the least risk migration path because it's still Nginx? No. Wait, just to clarify, I don't know that I'm not going crazy. Nginx Plus is still Ingress,
It's
right?
the paid solution from F5
Okay.
with
so many of those called Nginx that I don't know anymore which Nginx is Nginx. If you're going to transition to Nginx Plus, as far as I know, uses different stuff. It's not the Ingress and Nginx from Kubernetes, right? So you need to migrate. And if you're going to migrate, please migrate. Either migrate automatically without any changes, if there is such a solution. I think, Scott, you mentioned traffic. Cool.
So traffic support about 80% of the use cases of Ingress Nginx in their Ingress Nginx compatibility mode. Please don't use it unless you need to, or use it as stopgap solution. And then do what Viktor's about to say, which is the only real solution.
Yeah, what I was trying to say is that if you're lazy and you find a solution, traffic or whatever, that will migrate without any effort, without you changing anything, except maybe one line somewhere, go for it, if that's your choice. But if you're going to put your effort into it to migrate, I need to make those changes to migrate, it's Gateway API, period. I don't want to talk about Ingress anymore. As easy as that.
Exactly.
And I don't know, I mean, but I'm pretty sure that Scott agrees with that one.
Yeah.
I do 100% agree. I'm not an Ingress user, not a gateway user, so like I have less expertise in that area. But I know what they are, and definitely I would like spend some time assessing traffic and ATA proxy gateways if they exist. But like I think the gateway migration is definitely more interested in the right path.
Yeah, and again, the Gateway API is the future, right? So whether we get there now or in a year or in 2 years or in 5 years, the Kubernetes ecosystem is moving to Gateway API. That is very clear, and that is the direction of the project. And as part of that, if you need to make a migration, why not make the migration now to Gateway API instead of do a half painful migration to some other ingress to then need to do another migration down the road to Gateway API? It's just migrate to Gateway API, and then you're agnostic to the underlying provider, right? Because the biggest issue with Ingress controllers is everyone used annotations or custom CRDs. Now let's go with the annotation approach. Contour has its annotations. Ingress Nginx has its. NGINX Ingress has its. NGINX Plus has its ones. Traffic has its. HA Proxy has its ones. Everyone had different annotations. So migrating from one to another meant changing my manifests. The benefit in the Gateway API world is that because all these things that we were doing through annotations are now spec fields, I can move from using VPC Lattice implementation in AWS of Gateway API to moving to K-Gateway, to Nginx's implementation, to Contour, to Avi Networks, to whatever it is, and it's seamless. I don't need to change my manifests.
But on top of that, it's also about when you're if you're using something, whatever that something is, it could be fine. But if you're investing in something, then you think about, okay, what is the thing that will serve me in the future? Like if you're using Swarm still, Docker Swarm, cool, kind of like use it. I have nothing against it. But if you tell me, hey, I'm going to start using or transition from VMs to Docker Swarm, then the story is completely different, right? You're going to invest time in it. It's dying. Don't do it. And same thing for Ingress. The only thing that there should be some kind of law to force all third parties to publish their Helm chart to support Gateway API.
Yes.
They should be. We should have a campaign to publicly shame any public Helm chart that does not support Gateway API, because it's not hard. You
create a Kyverno policy that does a mutation, or use a generate policy.
I like that.
Okay. If I'm not mistaken, I have seen Viktor use the AI agent to create a developer portal. Is this way, or what would be the recommended approach to start from the beginning? Viktor uses AI to generate everything today. So I don't write code by hand anymore. I don't wipe code either, just to be clear. but I'm doing everything with agents now. So, yes.
I believe a developer portal should not be built with AI. I believe there should be AI in a developer portal, but I think that, a developer portal specifically, again, it can be written with AI. If we're talking, again, it depends on what we're talking about. Yes, what Viktor's video did with the wonderful port. My thoughts are well known. But, getport.io is a solution. They have an MCP that allows you to configure it. Okay, good for you. That's not what interests me. I think that the issue with any of that stuff is that really you want to be spending your time in the design of those blueprints of all of the elements.
Yeah.
There. And having AI do it non-deterministically, I'm sorry, my portal, I want to be deterministic. I want my internal developer portal to be deterministic.
So I don't know whether we disagree on that one or not. One thing is that I use AI to help me write everything, including, let's say, configurations for a portal, right? But it's still me reviewing it. It's still me the effect is the same as if I wrote that config myself, right? It's just that I'm not typing letters. I'm still reviewing it. The result is exactly the same.
As long as you are in full control over it and you're not just YOLOing.
Oh yeah. YOLO should be banned. I think it should be illegal. And I'm going to offend now people. The only place where YOLO is okay, that's front end, right?
I agree with you, Viktor. I'm not going to do the HTML and front end React.
No.
Yes.
I wanna agree there. I wanna say especially when using AI, the spectrum where you can use it is pretty large. There's a lot of areas where you can just go and ask it to do things for you. And with that, I would say hey, it's known that with great power comes great responsibility. It is your responsibility to understand the code that was generated, its architecture, the trade-offs, do the security reviews, make sure that actually you know what's going on. I started using AI maybe 3 months ago, and I don't recall the last time I really wrote code by hand. But at the same time, I know everything that is going on. Even with very large PRs, there's 3,000 lines of code. I know it probably by heart, every single PR was developed in it. So I believe we need to be responsible of the code that is generated by AI, at least in the critical paths, and I would say medium to critical paths. And maybe this is where you and I, Viktor, agree that front end maybe falls in a special part of the spectrum that we can be it's okay.
It feels, if you work on a project, like you work on KROW, right? There are, among others, there are 3 critical types of tasks you might be doing, right? One is to figure out what will be the PRD. What do we want to put there, right? They call it design, and so on and so forth, right? Then there is the actual work of converting that into code, and then there is a review afterwards, which might result in additional cycles, right?
Right.
Most of the emphasis...
a crap. KRO
Say again?
proposal.
There you go.
A crow has a crap, yeah.
Exactly.
But the point is that emphasis is less on the writing code, but more on reviewing code and deciding what should be done, right? And of course, during the writing, you're reviewing it as well.
I want to say from my experience, AI is quite good at either translating designs to code or code to design. And if you ask it to do both at the same time, it just goes completely wild.
Except for front end.
Love it.
I love front end.
I love using front end.
You won't use a terminal. Stop.
No. That's not true. First of all, just before this meeting, I was watching YouTube. That's a front end. And I'm going to switch to Netflix after this meeting, eh?
Exactly.
So I'm coming from front end and I'm going to front end after this. So it's not true.
Okay.
We have an upcoming meeting with F5 team to review our EKS Ingress Nginx Plus migration case, and we want to understand how close to one-to-one it is, especially for annotations and snippets. As far as I know, it's not close. It's not. I spoke with people close to the project, not to say people from the project, from the company project, stuff like that. And that was my first reaction when kind of discussing, hey, is it the time now for people to migrate from Ingress Nginx or Nginx Ingress or whatever it's called in Kubernetes? And my first question was, are your annotations the same? No. Well.
So why would they migrate to you?
Yeah.
It's like,
because so here's
the same programming language under the hood. So
because
what's your interface?
think of it this way: if how you configure Nginx is different, then actually F5 is equally good candidate as any other ingress in the world to be replacement for Nginx, because you need to do the work.
Right. You changed my interface, so now I'm going to go and look for the best implementation of what I need, because I have to change my interface that I'm interacting with anyways. That's,
Okay, more. Today it's all Gateway API Ingress. We are now in crossroad of selecting a Gateway API to replace Nginx Ingress. What are the things to consider with selecting? Any advices, maybe personal experience recommendation or no-go options? I don't have special, to be honest, recommendation which one to pick. Scott always has a special recommendation, so I'll let him go.
So I would say, look, there's on GitHub, it was recently, released, there was a huge benchmark done of almost all of the different gateway API providers, not of the managed ones from the clouds, but like of the, let's say, open source ones. By far the best are Agent Gateway and K Gateway in terms of their actual just performance, stability. They're, standing up to the spec of, Gateway API and implementing the multitude of features. So I would say K Gateway / Agent Gateway, which are the same. It's just a question, is it a non-FOIA Rust-based backend? Same project, basically. That's what I would use if you want to be agnostic. If you are in a specific cloud, if you are a pure Google customer,
you stole my answer now.
Gateway API. If you are in EKS, use the VPC Lattice Gateway API because it will integrate well with your AWS ecosystem. However, if you are GKE and EKS, do not use either, use K Gateway. And the reason is because you will get the same feature set. Unfortunately, down the road, I would love to say to use VPC Lattice, the EKS is one, and use GK is one. The difference is because Gateway API is still moving along in its versions, new things are coming, and vendors are not standing up in terms of actually implementing the latest specs, and what each one supports is going like this and this and this, and some are taking longer than others. You are better off at this point, when we are still not at 100% basically like a stable API, right? Nothing's changing in the Node API in Kubernetes, right? Every once in a while something small changes, but not something that's groundbreaking, that whatever, right? Like things are stable in core Kubernetes APIs. Gateway API hasn't reached that yet. And because of that, I'd say it is best to stay with one implementation at this point, with the idea that when things stabilize a bit more, you will be able to replace out K Gateway with GKEs and with EKSs and whatever, but you want to have that same feature set across the board, at least at this point, while it's still a maturing API.
The important part of the story here is that, unlike with Ingress, making a mistake is not a costly mistake.
Correct.
Right? You can switch basically you can switch from one gateway class to another and say, okay, so this did not work for me. I'm switching to that one. And your definition still stay the same unless you're doing some really funky stuff. Really funky stuff. So kind of, it's very different from the situation, oh, now I have like 20,000 lines of NGINX Ingress annotations. What the heck do I do? Right? I cannot switch from one Nginx to one Ingress to another over in no time. With Gateway API, if you make a mistake or you make a right choice and tomorrow you discover that, oh, actually this now offers some funky, better performance or whatever, you just switch, you just change the class. That's it.
Right.
That's what Ingress was supposed to be.
Exactly. I will say one last line here, which is my general approach with all these things when there's a new, let's say, interface that replaces an old one, right? Gateway API is replacing Ingress. The general approach that I always take is take something that was built from the ground up for Gateway API and do not take something that was mutated from an Ingress controller into a Gateway API controller. Because something that was built natively for that API is almost always going to have less tech debt and is going to actually be built in the correct way for that new API. And we see this very clearly in the benchmarks. If you look at Contour or any of these things that Kong, Trafic, how they behave with Gateway API is subpar to the way that the native Gateway API controllers are built, right? So that is an important thing. The one thing I will say, get rid of Envoy Gateway. Envoy Gateway is the worst performance of any of them, even though it was built for Gateway API. I don't understand who's behind that project anymore, but it is breaking spec of Gateway API all the time, and its performance is worse than Nginx. So don't use it.
Okay. Crossplane 1 to 2 migration. What are the most common RBAC air gaps that cause reconcile failures? I read air gap. This is you, Scott. Maybe Amin. Air gap. I'm successfully avoiding.
So
I'm not sure where airgap falls in here.
I think like zero access to internet. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm guessing, and kind of no connection.
How that falls into RBAC here.
I'm just assuming it's some air gap magic that you know, Scott. I mean, in my head, the major question is how do you pull images from registry, and after that, it doesn't matter, right?
Exactly. The most common issues in the migration from 1 to 2 that cause reconcile failures is when you have broken functions, right? Or your function pipeline is broken. Or
yeah, but that's not specific to air gaps, right?
Exactly. I don't understand how. I don't see any difference in the air gap world except for pulling the images. That's what the image config CR is for in Crossplane. In this case, there's really nothing special about Crossplane in this sense except for the package manager, how it pulls down providers, right? And for that, you have an image config CRD that tells it how to map the, registries.
One of the things that you could do in general, even like for the Crossplane migration, is that you could look at the audit logs to understand actually all the GVKs the controller is trying to interact with, so that you can at least like project what your RBAC should look like. And you could use this with any other controller if you do have access to the audit logs, if you're enabling that feature, depending on which cloud provider you use. But yeah. The other one as well is that you could look at the Helm charts. I wouldn't like expect really any RBAC problems moving from V1 to V2 as well.
Yeah. What I will say just about what you mentioned there, with Jordan Liggett, I think is his name, like he created Audit to RBAC back in the day. One of the greatest tools ever that literally goes over audit logs and just gives you the RBAC rules based off of the RBAC logs. You give it, hey, this is the user, and it goes through all the audit logs. It creates the cluster roles and roles according to all of the get, create, update, delete requests that were made through the audit logs. It's awesome.
Okay. if you join the company with little or no DevOps culture and were responsible for driving the DevOps initiative, how would you promote adoption across teams and what would success look like? And whenever I hear DevOps, I'm never 100% sure what people mean. So I'm going to split it into two. And either of you answer. One would be kind of, let's call it platform engineering. I'm creating services for other people in my company. And sometimes also people, when they say DevOps, I'm acting as an operator or, SRE, that basically I'm watching the live system and making sure that it's operational, right? So I'm not sure which one of the two is meant by DevOps. Let's say platform engineering.
What I do like here, though, is the word DevOps culture, I will say. Because it pissed me off that people think that DevOps equals Jenkins equals GitHub Actions equals Kubernetes.
Yeah.
No, it does not. Yes, those tools are used in companies that implement tech. Oh, yeah, they also do DevOps. But DevOps is a cultural thing, right? Way more than it is a specific technology, right? Platform engineering, I view as an implementation of DevOps culture, or it is a good way of bringing down to real world what DevOps culture should bring upon, right? Which is team topologies, which is how teams actually interact with one another, which is building a platform so that we can interact with one another in a seamless way. But it's about bringing Dev and Ops together. I think in my mind, the only measure of success, if DevOps worked or not, is how much have you lowered the amount of Jira tickets created between Dev and Ops? Have you raised the trajectory of how quickly Dev can do things and how little they are blocked on other people, right? And how much blaming there is across the wall between Dev and Ops to Dev. If those three numbers are good, it was successful. If those three numbers are bad, there's still more work to be done. That's how I look at it.
I feel that the measurement is what is the percentage of autonomy that you accomplished people have, right? I use very often AWS as an example, right? What AWS is to me as an ops person, that's what you are to people in your company. The ideal situation is that I never contact AWS support. That's the ideal situation, right? Kind of everything just works as it's supposed to work, and I can self-serve myself. I can do everything myself, and that's beautiful, right? The more issues I start opening, there is the worse service I'm getting, right? And ideally, I should never, and I doubt that there is such an option, right? I mean, correct me. In the ideal situation, in case of AWS, is that I never contact AWS folks and say, oh, I need 5 VMs. Can you please create 5 VMs for me, right? That's what you're trying to do. It's the same thing, just made specific for you. Okay. We got $5. Aki value. Thank you so much. Thank you. Clarification from before, airgaps, wrong phrasing, major pitfalls. I meant one thing that is different, doesn't have to be different, is that now provider configs, which are actually related to RBAC, can be namespaced as well, right? So you can create namespaces and say, hey, this namespace has this config, meaning that it can do this and that, and then namespace has that config, it can do this and that over there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now next one, I'm not sure. I'm not going to answer anything because I'm very subjective. Some people in the company want to use KRO and ACK to manage resources. I would like to challenge that decision. Are there any advantages of using KRO plus ACK over Crossplane nowadays? Amin, go.
That's a very hard question. I think, okay, here is the way I
That's why I passed the ball to you, man.
Okay, I'm gonna give my I'm gonna remove my ACK and KRO hats and I'm gonna answer. I I think the way I see Crossplane, ACK, and KRO is that ACK and KRO, they are very specific. They are doing very specific things that you might need. And Crossplane is actually an ecosystem of controllers and providers that lets you actually connect a lot of APIs to your cluster. So whenever actually I talk to users and customers that are already on GCP, Azure, and AWS, my direct answer to them, like without really thinking, is like, hey, use Crossplane. You want the standardization of having like the same experience when interacting with the cloud providers, like just go ahead and use Crossplane. If you are using only AWS and you don't have any external dependency or like the need for any other providers, you can use ACK. Now, it is important to note that ACK doesn't have the same coverage Crossplane has. So if you look at the number of CRDs ACK supports, it is way less than Crossplane does. And ACK's goal was never to achieve the complete coverage of all AWS resources, and it's still not until this day. Now, when it comes to KRO, I think it's unfair to compare KRO to Crossplane directly. It is fair to compare it to just the composition layer. My personal opinion is that KRO brings some simplicity to Crossplane composition. However, it doesn't have the same features nor the goals of Crossplane composition. For example, Scott was talking about Crossplane functions just a few minutes ago. Crossplane supports functions. It lets you call external APIs. KRO doesn't support that, and it doesn't support it on purpose, actually, and it will never go and support custom functions. So it's a trade-off. It really depends on how complex your API is, your use cases, and what you'll gain from using each tool.
I think I would say from my side here is kind of, the maybe the least biased person maybe in the stream here is I don't work on either project, and I use both. I use all of the projects. I think that it's really a question of what the level of complexity, right? What Amin was saying is completely true, right? If you need that cloud agnostic, right? You're multi-cloud, you're multi-provider, you're multi-that. Awesome. Crossplane is a great solution. What I will say, Crossplane providers do not require you to use Crossplane compositions. Crossplane compositions do not require you to use Crossplane managed resources. You can use ACK resources in Crossplane, and you can use Crossplane managed resources inside of KRO. Therefore, I think that it is not a dichotomy of those two versus Crossplane. It is a question of Crossplane composition versus KRO, and that question comes down to what the level of complexity that you can handle and what level of complexity do you need, right? What level of functionality do you need the features that Crossplane can give you? If you do, are you able to take upon yourself the extra complexity that brings along with it of functions of the more complex API schema? If the answer is yes, then go with Crossplane compositions. If the answer is I just need something simple, I want it to work, I want to have a DAG, right? I want the direct acrylic graph, I want the things that KRO gives me, and its limitations are acceptable for me, then go with KRO. Same thing. If ACK, especially if you're running this in AWS, where there is a capability from AWS, which you get support for, if ACK covers the resources that you need, great. It's a perfect option. If it doesn't, I would say I wouldn't recommend do these resources in ACK, these resources with object provider AWS. No. If ACK doesn't cover what you need, then go with the Crossplane provider. That's my personal opinion, because I think the amount of weirdness that you're going to have of just trying to mental model when I use this, when I use this, when I use this, when I use that, is going to be more complex than just going with the Crossplane approach. But if ACK covers what you need, which for many people it will, because it covers core APIs, then use ACK. Then you can use that in Crossplane as well with no issues.
Okay. Now, the most important question now, Argo or Flux? Last year, Viktor mentioned, and by the way, I muted Scott, so he cannot yell at you today. Okay, let me unmute him.
I'm joking.
That was evil. We should not go for Flux since it's dying and Argo has bigger and active community. Last week you said Flux is alive again. I'll be brief here and then let Scott or Amin say. I did say a while ago, I don't remember whether it was a year ago or something, that Flux is dying. I stand that Flux has a smaller user base, smaller contribution, and so on and so forth. But Flux is in a much better position today than it was around the death of Weaveworks, right? I was skeptical that the people working on it would pull it off. It feels that they did. It's still behind Argo CD. So there are practical reasons why you would choose one or another, and there are kind of adoption reasons why you should choose one or the other. I agree actually with Scott that architecturally and functionally Flux is better. I also do think that the sheer gravity of Argo CD is much bigger than of Flux. Not necessarily big enough to say, oh, so there is no alternative to Argo CD. I'm not saying that. Flux is amazing, and you should try it. But what goes in... Say again?
What about Rancher Fleet?
Rancher Fleet, yeah. I mean, I don't judge people. So if you're a masochist and you like suffering and pain, who am I to say that that's not good for you? Kind of like, let's keep sexual preferences outside of this discussion. Kind of like, sadomaso, cool. It's you, man. Go for it.
Are you a Flux or an Argo guy, Amin?
Oh, so removing my AWS and ACK and KRO hat, I'm a Flux guy.
Yeah. Well, that's perfectly fine because AWS use both.
Yeah, I mean, even internally, fun facts, we do have like managed Argo and EKS capabilities, but the system that is backing ACK's release pipeline that is open source, by the way, they can go and see, is a Flux system. So we have, actually, we do use both.
And
we
EKS Anywhere is all based off of Flux v2.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, cool.
Yep. EKS Anywhere is all Flux v2 under the hoods as well. So yeah,
Nice.
like you guys are using Flux and Argo because again, yeah, why not?
And who knows? Maybe one day we'll have Flux and EKS capabilities. Not even excluding that.
Yeah.
No, adopt Fleet. There.
Or Carvel cap controller.
Or, okay, so if you put it like that, then kind of like Fleet all of a sudden doesn't sound so bad. I'm sorry. I gave you, kind of, to be honest, Scott, I gave you slack over there, that kind of YTT at the time. I saw the reasons behind it. Cap control, I never understood why it existed. This is the, sorry. Okay. Hi everyone, I'm working on Crossplane GitOps based hub and spoke IDP platform and was wondering if anyone would recommend any AI tools that can help monitor and analyze such environments. I don't know any. Claude Code, yeah. There we go. So the thing is that I think that if you're talking about, hey, help me monitor and analyze such environments, I think that you should think about it as help me monitor and analyze my Kubernetes clusters rather than Crossplane itself, right? Because At the end of the day, Crossplane or KRO for that matter, they're all just bringing additional CRDs, some created by you, some installed by you from third parties, that are conceptually not that different from any other CRDs you have in your cluster, right? And they all inherit the same properties. Like, hey, there is a parent-child relationship, ownership between resources, right? There are events, there are logs, there are blah, 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 blah. It's all Kubernetes, right? Focus on Kubernetes and from the perspective of monitoring and analyzing, and Crossplane fits into that picture, or KRO or Kube Valley if you're very unfortunate. They all fit into all that same picture.
Exactly.
What I'm really trying to say is that I don't think that you need anything special for Crossplane. Except, wait, sorry. Whew, I almost got fired. You need something special, buy Upbound. Buy it right now.
But no, but I would say specifically in the area of Crossplane, there is one other thing, which are the operational functions. I would say go and look at like the Claude function that was created by Upbound. It's open source though. Look at that. It is the operational functions in Crossplane, I think, are a very interesting approach that was added in V2. And I think that the AI functions there are an interesting approach. It doesn't mean to use that function as is, but look at that as a methodology for possibly how you would do this. The benefit of them, they can work against non-Crossplane resources as well. These, these cron operations and whatever, right? Which for those that don't understand what these are, but it's basically just think of it as a Kubernetes job, but the spec is basically a Crossplane pipeline of functions. So basically you can build a very low code way of repeatable watch functions, cron operations, whatever, that do all these things. And you can use AI for that. And then what I liked is if you watch there was recently a CNL, a Cloud Native Live, this week, last week, whatever it was, talking about AI in Crossplane, where I think it was Yuri from the
Yuri,
where what he showed is creating an RDS instance, and then there's an operational function that basically watches, does an AI analysis, and actually triggers a scaling of the RDS instance and right sizes RDS based off of metrics that it's pulling from CloudWatch. Right? So like there's some very cool things you can do, and it can patch resources or add conditions onto a resource. Like you can use AI in a controller almost in very interesting ways. I think we're still very early in there. There's not a lot of tooling. There's not a lot of prescription that can be given on how to do that correctly. But it's the direction that I think that we will move into eventually. Because I think it's very promising. I just don't know yet exactly how it will land.
Okay. Hi, please give a career advice. I'm senior DevOps, but not that good in programming. Should I learn Go or Python deeper? I'm going to be very offensive now. You're not DevOps if you're not good at programming. You're Ops at best. Sorry for that. This was very offensive, but anyways, should you learn Go or Python? Yes.
If you're in the Kubernetes space, Go. If you're more looking into the AI space, Python. If you really want the answer, it doesn't matter, because once you learn one programming language well, it's really not difficult to learn another one. The idea is to learn a language and to learn the methodology of programming. Do not just learn a language, learn programming. You learn programming by learning a language, and it's fine. But your goal is not to learn Python or to learn Go or to learn Java or to learn .NET. It's to learn how to program. From that point on, you can switch to another language freely. And by the way, Bash is a programming language. It's a very terrible one for anything over 100 lines, but it's a programming language that is great for short things. PowerShell is a programming language. All of these things are.
To explain it differently, knowing how to program is not about knowing the syntax of a language. Knowing a syntax you need because you need to know where to put the curly braces or whether it goes not something else or colon or whatever, right? But it's understanding how to write program, essentially what Scott said, right? And any good programmer will tell you that switching from one language to another, it's not one day because you still need to learn the syntax, but conceptually, especially now with AI, I mean, I don't know what's your guys' experience, but for me, it's important that I understand what it did and can tell it when it does something wrong, and I can literally do it with any language now with 2 exceptions. I have only 2 exceptions there, Perl and Rust.
You know what the slogan of Perl is? You know what the slogan of Perl is?
No?
My code was hard to write, so it should be hard to read.
There we go. There we go. I mean, I know a different one that is basically, my paraphrasing is kind of like Perl is a job security. Nobody will ever be able to maintain my code. Nobody. And consequentially, I will not be able to maintain anybody's code either. that's.
Are you a Rust guy, Amin? Have you played with Rust at all?
I used to, not anymore. I tried to learn Rust because it was the
The hype.
hyped programming, like the hype, yeah. And I stopped because it was not very useful to what I was doing. Go was good enough. Lately, I'm learning Zig.
Really?
Yeah, it's
an
simpler
interesting
than
one.
Rust for sure. I scratch my head like less.
Yeah, I like Zig. Like, I played with it a bit. It's a very interesting language. Rust, I was never able to grok. Like, I never understood the huge love of Rust.
Yeah.
No, there is advantage. I heard from a Rust programmer, Rust code doesn't have bugs. That's the advantage.
Yep.
Because there is
Absolutely.
no Rust code.
Okay, now this is something I strongly disagree. And this is the response to the previous question. You should learn to write specs, plan, and use Claude Code. You need to, if you're doing anything but pet projects, you need to understand, you need to be a developer, programmer to understand how things work so that your specs, your plan, and your additional instructions during the process to Claude Code will be different. Right? My mom can use Claude Code now to write some application for her. She will never be able to use Claude Code to run something serious in production, ever. She's not a programmer. And I don't think that we will get there anytime soon. I think it's all wrong marketing.
Yeah.
Or none of us has jobs, one of the two. Okay, I think we're done for today. There are a couple of more questions, but we're over the time. Thank you guys for watching. See you next week. This was awesome.
Yeah. Cheers.
Thank you, guys.